You don't understand that you're helping me keep my house.
Welcome to a special episode of Hometown Hustle. We are so glad to be back. I'm Grafton Sizemore.
I'm Rachel Branningham.
And I'm Brittany Jackson.
I'm super excited about today's guest. As I mentioned, there's someone that I'm completely inspired by. I'm so excited to have her in the hot seat, talk about a complete powerhouse, someone that I am inspired and motivated to rise and to do more for my community on the daily. I have the opportunity to sit on the board with Helping Hand for Hope, and that is where I met our today's guest, which is Hope Burke. And I have just, in watching you lead in the way that you carry yourself, it's filled with grace, and you give daily everything you've got to this community. And so we are just humbled and honored to have you sit down with us. And I'm excited, as I had mentioned to you previously, one of the things that I love so much about this podcast is, we're in the vicinity of each other, and I feel like I know you. However, I don't know your story. I don't know what brought you to this place, what brought you to this moment. And so I'm really excited selfishly to dig into that story and get to know you on a much deeper level. So thank you very much for the opportunity to sit down with you.
Oh my gosh, that's going to make me cry. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you guys for letting me come. This is just a true blessing.
So obviously you serve as the executive director for Helping Hand for Hope. And one of the things that I'd like to start going back a little ways, I want to kind of hear your story. Maybe, you start that where you feel comfortable, but obviously there were things that led. Have you always lived in Hardin County, or is this kind of a new, at some point you made your way here?
Yes, this is new. So when my husband and I, David, got married in 2018, I always say that I pulled the straw that said I had to come here because I was living on the East Coast. And so one of my best friends introduced us. And so we had dated for long distance, and I was like, okay, this isn't going to work if we really want to be together. And so, the driving and flying back and forth. And so I drew the straw that said I had to come here.
Yeah. So he was here.
We dated for about 8 months, and we're like, okay, we really want to be together, but we both have young kids. And it's like, how are we going to do this? We're going to have to be local to each other. And he was like, okay, let's get married. And so we started talking in, I believe it was August. We met in person in October. We got engaged in January. We were married in June.
Well, you mentioned God. Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with him.
So I think I grew up originally in the South. And so I feel like I was always that, hey, you go up at the altar call with all your friends after Disciple Now, and you don't really know what's happening. And so I feel like I knew him when I was younger. But then things in life happened and I questioned. So I was originally from Alabama. I was born to a mom who was 15 when she got pregnant and was going to a Catholic church in school. And they, of course, if you're not married, when you go to a Catholic school, that's like a big thing. And she wanted to have an abortion. I want to have an abortion. This is what's got to happen. And my grandparents were like, no, girl, no. No, we're not doing this. And so I was born, and on the third day of being in the hospital, they came in and they were like, we're going to do an emergency adoption. And so they adopted me. Lived with them, obviously. I mean, they were the best parents that I knew at that time. They did everything for me because they were older. And my siblings that were like my uncles, but I grew up as my brothers, and then my birth mom as my sister. I always felt like there was a little bit of tension there because here I am, like the new little baby, and they're like, already in their 20s. Like one brother was like in a rock band, like basically on MTV. Like it was a whole thing, like, 90s, 80s, like rock band, And so here I am, like the cute little baby. But so my dad, which was my grandfather, died of cancer when I was 13. And then my grandmother got sick with cancer when I was 17, and she passed away. And so in the midst of all of that, growing up, I was raped and I got pregnant from that rape. It was a whole thing. And a lot of people tried to force me to have an abortion. And I was like, I can't do that because I wasn't an abortion, and again, I think that full circle. And so I was able to give him up for an adoption. Kind of a crazy miracle story. I had this wild hair that I'm going to be able to take care of him and I'm going to be able to do all this. I was in the hospital with him, and a nurse came in the day that was supposed to be off that day. And she was the breastfeeding coordinator, and she had always wanted to have children and couldn't. And she's the one that adopted him. So it was a whole, again, God's story. So again, so at that point I was like, I'm done with this. Again, trying to run away from God. I was mad at a lot of things. So I literally moved to New York City with $5,000 in my car and did it. Put myself through school and
I mean, I
made
loved
it.
you.
And I ended up having my son Kingston. I was with his father for a while. We were, married and we got divorced. And so I was a single mom for 8 years. And so I basically did everything for him while we lived in New York. I was homeless. Like I had nothing. Like I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. Even though you work and you're in New York City, when your apartment's $2,000 and you have all these things. So I was pregnant actually when we split. And so homeless, like I didn't know what I was going to do. And my mall, the one that I was telling you guys about, that was like my mom that came later on, I actually went back home and I had nothing. Like I went back home to some friends and I went to church one night and this lady I met named Ashley told me, she was like, you need to go to the small group with me. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And so I went and there was a bunch of people there and I met this couple named Alton and Mary Yancey and their Ma and Paul. But they literally prayed over me that night. So when you mentioned laying hands on people, I was like, I definitely know what that is. And when Ma laid hands on me for the first time, knew nothing about me, knew my name was Hope. They didn't even know I was pregnant at this time, like because I wasn't showing that much. She said, I want to let you know something. You were not born to be a mistake. So whoever told you you were a mistake was wrong. And that baby that you're carrying is going to do good in this world and you're going to be okay. And I'm like, what? Like, who told, what is happening? And so the next day, this lady Ashley had met that's a friend of mine now. She's like, remember that couple that I told you about? They want to bring you in their house and they want to help you. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not normal. Like, people don't bring you into their house. They don't do these things. And they're like, no, God told them to do it and they want to do it. And so they brought me into their house when I had nothing. And she became my mother and he became my dad. And she passed away a year ago. And she was just my best friend and my favorite person. And there were days that I disappointed her. Oh my gosh, there were days that I disappointed her, but she loved me, everything, never judged me, never got mad at me. And Kingston was one of her grandchildren, and you would have never known a difference.
Oh my God.
So when you talk about them, obviously you grow up like talking about them, right?
Yeah.
What role did they have in you getting into a service organization? Like, and I know it sounds like something that you had done, but how much of a role did they play into your path on getting to where you're at now?
Oh, 100%. Them and God that was it. Like if I ever, and I think, and I do not want to cry because my makeup's going to go everywhere. So when I had to tell her, goodbye over the phone, because we had actually had an event at Helping Hand of Hope and I left from that event because I was like, I got to get down there. Like something's not right. And Kingston and Paul were like, no, Hope, it's fine. Like she's going to be okay. And I'm like, Kingston, no, we have to get in the car. And we drove through Nashville all the way to Alabama, like through these massive storms. And we got there like in record time. And I walked in and she's like, why are you here? Like, you act like I'm dying. And I'm like, I have to come and see you. I have to like hug you and tell you. And then it was like 2 weeks later, we got the call and there was no way that I could get there in time. And I just sat on the phone on FaceTime with her and the rest of her family just for about 10 minutes. And I said, I just got to cry this out. And I told her, I was like, you have changed me for good. And when you get to heaven and like, you changed me for good. And she did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and ultimately changed many people's lives because the way you serve through the different organizations you've served in, but now with Helping Hand for Hope, like her legacy lives on through your service. So for our listeners, share a little bit about Helping Hands for Hope's mission and what are the key things that they focus on in our community and how they serve.
I think the easiest way to say it without having to read like a 5-paragraph mission statement or something is to say, we serve to keep dignity in our neighbors that are in need in Hardin County. Because a lot of times the dignity aspect, I feel like, is what's taken away from people. And when people are in that dire need, like I remember when I had to go ask for food stamps and I was denied, it was the most embarrassing thing. And when I lived in New York, Superstorm Sandy happened and my car was in a garage in the city. And that's when we basically had like, hurricane come through New York City and like my car was ruined. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to provide for Kingston that year for Christmas. And I had to go seek Christmas assistance. And it was just one of those things that every day I try to remember. But so for our neighbors in Hardin County for over 54 years, Helping Hand of Hope has provided emergency assistance, which considers like you think food, rental assistance, hygiene, utility assistance, transient services. We want to be almost because when people come out and they are in that place in their life where they are struggling, we don't want to be like, okay, well, you're now here. So now we need to send you to these 7 other places.
Yeah.
So we want to try to get some of those needs. And it's with partnerships with like United Way and with different places that we're able to do that. And people do trust us because we have been in business. I do believe we are the oldest nonprofit that is in Hardin County. I'm going to say we are, but if not, then nobody come sue me. But I'm pretty sure we are. But it's those partnerships are so important because when those people come in and they are in those positions and then they're in those dire needs, we're able to serve them where they are. Because especially like, I'm just going to say our pet food because I told you I love pets. So we had a situation during COVID that a woman came in and her husband had just passed away. And the only thing she had left of her husband was this little dachshund dog. And she was like, I've not received anything from my husband yet because everything's tied into this whole COVID thing. You know, we've had payments. I lost my job. She's like, we're literally sharing cans of tuna every night, me and this dog. And she's like, this is my husband's best friend. I can't get rid of this dog. And I'm sitting there bawling. I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, is she about to tell me I got to take another dog home? Like, how am I going to figure this out? But no, so we got this idea because we partnered with some other agencies to where we get that donated. So no donor dollars go to that pet food and we're able to give pet food out in Hardin County because you never understand something could happen and that could be that one sanity piece for that neighbor. And like beds for children, I always remember the movie The Blind Side, and I always remember Michael Orr.
That's one of my favorites.
I know, me too. I know too.
That's such a good movie.
And if when he like, you know, she's looking and she's like, you know, here, this is yours, and he's like, I've never had one of those, and she's like, oh, a dresser or whatever, and he's like, no, a bed, and it's like, what? And so I never really understood that. What do you mean, like kids don't have beds? Like we have delivered beds to people before where 3 teenage boys are sharing a twin size bed. Kids are sleeping on the floor. Kids are, you know, literally bed hopping because they don't have a bed. And it's like, that's so important for development, you know, and even if people don't have a lot of money and can't go do these things, that is their space.
Yeah.
That is their safe place. And so that's very important. Affordable Christmas, you know, our Affordable Christmas program, we try to keep the dignity still with the families. And so we're able to work with the FRCs in the schools and also the churches. And we all do this partnership to where the families get to come to these churches on a select day and they get to shop for their children. And then they pay $15 back. So they know when they sign up, like they have X amount of months to save this $15. And they get to come pick those gifts because they know their children. So I would say like one of my favorite stories, and it was a Christmas story. So when we piloted this program, Christmas is hard. Like people don't understand like the backbones of everything, the moving parts. That's what I always say. Like it always looks good on picture, but like people don't understand no matter what it is, no matter what business you're in, all the moving parts. And so the very first year that we piloted it, I'll never forget, we're at this church and, you know, they provide daycare too for the families. So like if the families need to have, you know, childcare while they're shopping and these things like that. Yeah. So they tell them like the Christmas story, they say all this stuff. And I mean, I'm telling you at this point, I'm like, why did we ever start this program? I'm like, I am tired. I don't want to do this. Like, why, you know, and I'm like, you know, God's ready to slap hope in our face. So we're standing there and this mom checks out and, you know, they do these little activities too, to where the parents can come in and after they've shopped, they can go get their child and sometimes have like milk and cookies and different things. And this little girl runs up to her mom and she's like, Mama, do you know who Jesus is, Mama? There goes Hope slapped in the face. And I'm like, what if that was that one opportunity?
Yeah.
And to come to find out, then that child goes to that church now. And so now just the family. So that's that rooted moment. I think a lot of times some were during COVID and different things like that. More recently, like we had just today, we had a woman come in that she had a C-section 6 weeks ago. Her fiance left. She has nothing, and has not gotten disability, hasn't gotten anything. And I had to make that judgment call as a director. Like, do I do more than what we normally do? Do we, you know, can we do a little bit more? Who can we pull in as resources to get that? We were able to do that. And just to see 2 days ago, I happened to walk up front to make a copy of something while they were getting a guy, you know, signed in, and we were full for the day. And I just looked at him, and they always say Hope does not need to come to the front desk because every time Hope comes to the front desk, it's like, you know, Hope gets this feeling of something. And I'm like, y'all need to see him. Like, I don't care. Like, if I have to see him, if we have to pull, you know, pull somebody else out, I know we're full for the day. And this man just was like, you don't understand that you're helping me keep my house. So they can visit our website at www.helpinghandofhope.org. There is a volunteer, a little slide down there where they can sign up for that. We always need volunteers.
We recently just had a big fundraiser.
Yeah.
It was hosted downtown, and it was all themed. Now I'm drawing a blank. Wicked. Yes, it was all Wicked theme. And I mean, she got the Broadway singers to come to the event, and the event was incredible. But here's Hope coming down, and she's like, I think my foot is bleeding. She's had an ongoing situation with her foot. You would have never known. This woman stood on stage and spoke in front of the whole environment. We raised how much of that event?
It was like $70-something thousand that we cleared. Yeah.
And you would never know. I mean, after the event, after everybody had cleared, she put her foot up. She was like, I've got to go home. Like, it was bleeding pretty bad. Like, it was, but that's the heart that this woman works with. Like, and her staff is, I mean, they are dedicated to her. Like, they follow you and will do anything for you.
Yeah.
So, and it's because of your leadership.
Yeah. So you're amazing. There's days that I'm like, they hate me, but it's fine. No, but it's good. And I will say next year is our 55th anniversary, and we are going to host another major event.
You have a mic in front of you. Is there something that you would want to say, kind of in finishing this out? Is there something you would want to share to our audience? Anything that you would want to tell them?
I think just if they feel led, like 50 cents is not too little. $5,000 is not too big. I mean, you know what I mean? If you are able to give, remember that these are neighbors in need, and this is in our county. So it's not going anywhere else. And, on the days that we're doing hotel vouchers or bus tickets or any of these things, this could be any of us in any type of situation if something happened. Just like I put a gentleman in a hotel the other day that we're having to do for a month because he's homeless and on chemo. And, again, anything could happen at any point in time. And just to remember that they are neighbors, and that even on the good days where we feel like we have good days or not, like, we're all in this together.
A little bit of a rapid fire round.
Okay.
Brittany's got some questions for you, and it's just fun, lighthearted, 5-10-second answers.
What's your coffee order?
I don't drink coffee, so medicine ball.
I love it. Your favorite family tradition?
We go on a trip every year for Christmas.
A song that always puts you in a good mood?
Defying Gravity.
Of course.
Love that. One thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I've seen Wicked on Broadway 203 times.
Oh my goodness.
Danny, I knew you loved it. I didn't know you loved it that much.
A quote or mantra that carries you through tough moments?
Always show Jesus eyes.
Love that. One word that describes the season of life you're in right now?
Chaos.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm even more inspired than I was previously, and I've fallen more in love with you than I was already. I mean, I think that the character that I saw in you previously has been amplified dramatically by sitting down with you.
Oh,
Like, this just made me, I'm just more excited to sit on the board and more excited to learn and watch you lead. I mean, it's just the way you lead with such heart and passion is beautiful. So
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Call me anytime.
yes, perfect. All right, guys. Well, we're wrapping up here. We appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you all had a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year.
Love.